Hello everybody, I'm Stephanie. I'm so glad to be with you today. We're going to be spending a flow, paying some attention to the hips today. Not just releasing the hips and doing some stretches, but also finding release in the muscles that are pulling on the hips. So releasing the glutes, releasing the hamstrings, releasing the quads. But with that, we also want to find balance and engage certain muscles to protect the hips. We just don't want to relax and let everything land in the hips. So we're protecting that area. Join me on your mat wherever you're at. We're beginning in tabletop, wrists underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, finding some movement between cow and cat. Inhale, drop your core, lift your hips, lift the crown of your head back, bend cow. Exhale, spine towards ceiling, press away from your mat, cat. Breathing between these two shapes, inhaling to cow, exhaling to cat. One more set at your own pace with your breath. Inhaling to cow, exhaling to cat. And then this time we're going to add some movement to this. We're going to add a circular cat-cow. So as we're reaching our right hip back to the right, we're inhaling to cow, circle it around to the left, come all the way back up to center, exhale to cat. One more time to the right. Inhale to cow, back to the right, circle it to the left, center, inhale to cat. We're going to reverse that. So reach your left hip back to the left. Inhale to cow, to the right, center, up, cat. One more time to the left, cow, right, center, cat. And then making your way back to your neutral tabletop. Arms engaged, cores engaged, tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back. Finding some movement here in down dog. So this really releases the hamstrings, maybe pedaling out the heels. Maybe the hips are already really tight and you can wag the hips side to side. But down dog really stretches out the back of the hamstrings, which might be pulling on the low back, might be pulling on the hips. Then begin to settle in, heels reaching down towards the mat. They don't have to touch. That's just where they're headed. Core pulls in, shoulders roll back. Soften your knees if you're feeling anything in your low back. Deep bend in your knees, take your time, walk your feet to the top of your mat. We're going to hang out here for just a moment, ragdoll, grabbing opposite elbows, reaching down through the crown. Maybe you sway side to side, taking any tension out of the low back, the hips again. Then again, reaching down through the crown. Let your hands hang down in front of you. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, reach back down. Belly button to spine. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Arms come up overhead. Lengthen, 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 lengthen. And exhale, hands down through heart center. With all of these postures, we're wanting to have a neutral pelvis. So a lot of the pain in the hips can come from an unbalanced pelvis. You might always find that you're sticking the tailbone back or you're reaching your hips forward. You want to find a nice neutral pelvis. Here's a tongue twister. So pulling the core in and hips are reaching straight down. So whether that means you're pulling things back or forward, you're finding that balance right in the center. Inhale, arms reach up overhead. Exhale, swan dive. Sending that breath all the way to the back of the legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, reach back down. Deep bend in your knees. Plant your hands. Step your feet back to your down dog. We're going to take another few breaths here. Find some movement again. Pedal out your heels. Wag your hips side to side. And then settling down. Reach your right leg back behind you. Can you get your right hip down in line with your left? So you're not letting it open up. You're using the inner right thigh. You're beginning to wake up the inner right thigh to find some movement, dialing the right hip down if need be. Then step or walk your right foot up between your hands. Exhale, left knee comes down to the mat, low lunge. Instead of just dumping all of the energy straight down and sinking into the hips, We want to draw the energy up. So squeezing the inner thighs together. Inhale, arms reach up overhead. Find your length. Exhale, hands float down by your foot. Plant your left palm, inhale, right arm up, little twist. As this happens, can you keep your right knee in line with your right hip, or is it rolling open? So keep the inner thighs working, working, working. Exhale, float the palm back down. 2 more times. Inhale, little twist. Exhale, float it down. Inhale, twist. Exhale, float it down. Reach the tailbone back towards the heels, lifting the right toes, half splits. You might just hold out here, hang out here, sending the breath into the back of the leg. Or maybe you're moving back and forth. Low lunge to half splits. Whatever works for you. Remembering to breathe, not holding the breath, releasing any of the tension, those tight spots. And exhale, right toes come back down. Reach your left heel back. Squeeze your inner thighs together. Pull your core in. We're making our way up. Inhale, high lunge. On your exhale, open up, warrior 2. Hips are reaching straight down. Pull your mat together so you're engaging your inner thighs. We want to wake up, strengthen those inner thighs to protect the hip. Straighten your right kneecap. Tug forward. Spinning your hands down. We're dropping into triangle. You're listening to your right hip here. So instead of thinking, I've got to get my hand down to the floor, I've got to reach it all the way down there, it's going to depend on this right hip here. And you might notice that one hip is a little bit looser than the other. And for me and my body, my right hip's always tighter. So I'm always trying to be very, very conscious. Instead of pressing and trying to reach down towards the floor, I'm taking my time, maybe just doing it a little bit at a time. Or on certain days, the hand just doesn't make it down there. And that's okay, because my right hip's a little bit tighter. It's not a bad thing. I know this about myself. One more breath. Inhale, come back up, warrior 2. Bend your right knee. Wake up your inner thighs. Grip your mat. Then spinning the hands down, frame your right foot. Turn your left toes in. Step your right foot back down to your down dog. Take some movement again. Really feeling the stretch in the back of the legs. If you notice, we're kind of skipping that vinyasa flow today. We're not really bringing our awareness to the palms or the hands or building up the arm strength with our push-ups or chaturangas, but really finding release through the hips and legs. Other side, lift your left leg. This hip's a little different, so you might notice the hip opens a little bit more, maybe it opens less, but controlling that opening, beginning to wake up the inner left thigh, dial your left hip down, left hip in line with right. Step or walk your left foot up between your hands. Exhale, right knee comes down to the mat. Draw the energy up, inhale, whoo, there goes my mic. Arms reaching up overhead. Exhale, float it back down. Framing your left foot, plant your right palm. Keep squeezing your inner thighs together. Inhale, left arm lifts. Little twist. Hello, kitty. And exhale, left palm comes back down. It's like, what are you doing with your hand? Keep squeezing your inner thighs together. One more. Use the breath. Inhale, twist. Exhale, plant. Press back through your right heel. Right knee comes off the mat. Squeeze your inner thighs together. Pull your belly button in. Inhale, come all the way up. Other side, high lunge. So when I'm talking about pulling the core in, you're pulling in below the belly, above the belly, and the sides, like you're corseting in. So everything's pulling in. Inner thighs are pulling in towards each other. Exhale, open up, warrior 2. We're going to come back high lunge. I forgot to do my half splits on this side. Float it back down. Low lunge. Half splits, reach your hips back, left toes lift. Again, you can hold there. You can find movement back and forth. Then left toes come back down, making your way back up. High lunge. Open up, warrior 2. Grip your mat. Activate your inner thighs. pull the mat together. Really feel the inner thighs wake up. We want to wake up these inner thighs. A lot of time when people have sore hips, it's not just because they're tight, it's maybe because they're overextended. And so we want to counteract that over opening and wake up the inner thighs. Straighten your left knee, tug front. We're coming into triangle other side. This hip's different, so you're listening to your left hip flexor this time. Spinning your left hand down, right arm over top of your left. So if you notice, my left hand's closer to the mat on this side. And instead of every time I come to my right side going, oh man, why is it not this way? And forcing it to be a little bit more open, I'm just going to let it be whatever it is. And it's a challenge for me every time, just listening. Inhale, come back up, warrior two. Spin your hands down, frame your left foot. Step your left foot back, down dog. Taking some movement again, wiggles, anything you need. Then lifting your right leg again, but this time letting your hip open. So bending your right knee, reaching your right foot back to the left. So you're opening up your right hip flexor, but controlling your right armpit, right shoulder down. So the twist is coming all in the bottom half of the body with the hips. Instead of just being very still here, we're going to find some movement. Draw a big circle with your kneecap. You want to get the hip moving around in the joint. Reverse your direction. Keep your right knee bent. Realign your right hip with your left. Step or walk your right foot through between your hands. Squeeze those inner thighs again. Inhale, come back up. High lunge. We're really working the inner thighs. Exhale, float back down. We're going to spin on the toes to the left. So I'm going to flip this around so I'm not showing you my butt to the video here. Spinning to the left, spinning on both of your toes. Both the toes are going to point towards the left. We're coming to wide-legged forward fold. So if you need to, you can soften the knees. You can bring blocks underneath your hands. Maybe you have super long legs. You can widen your stance. Then on your exhale, reach down through your crown, just like in your standing forward fold. Very, very similar. You're sending the breath through the entire back side of the legs. If the palms are already on the floor or on a block, maybe you begin to walk the hands back a little bit. Shifting the weight just a little bit more, balancing it out so it's not just all in the heels, balancing it out, toes and heels. You might feel a deeper stretch in the back of the legs. Maybe you flip the palms towards the back and find a deeper stretch. But listening to the back side of the legs, wherever you need to stop, wherever you need to hang out, just letting things be what they are. And then we're going to find a little bit more release through the inner thighs. So turn your right toes out, bend your right knee, take your gaze out in front of you. Walk or sweep your hands to the right. Core is still pulled way in. Right toes in, left toes out. So we're finding some movement side to side. Left toes in, right toes out. Right toes in, left toes out. You can keep doing this side to side. Maybe you're walking the hands back and forth, and that's okay. Or maybe this time you're taking it a little bit deeper. You're coming into Skandasana, reaching the left toes towards the ceiling. Everybody's hips are different. Your right heel may stay down. You may step it in. You may come up on the toes. But you're just listening to this inner left thigh. Hands can stay down. Maybe the hands come up to heart center. But you're listening to the inner thigh, what feels best right here. So if this is a little bit too deep, instead of forcing the stretch here, maybe you're still moving side to side. One more breath. Left toes come back down. We're coming back wide-legged forward fold. And then walking the hands back towards the right foot. Bend the right knee. You're in your low lunge. Press back through your left heel. Keep squeezing inner thighs together. Then step your right foot back, down dog. Other side, lift your left leg. Find your hip opener on this side. Bend your left knee, reach your left foot back to the right. Keeping the opening in your hips, not twisting the torso. Find some movement. Draw a big circle with your kneecap. Cat thinks I'm going to kick it. I'm not going to kick you, Rainbow. You're okay. Controlling, left knee stays bent. Realign your left hip with your right hip. Step or walk your left foot through between your hands. You're going to be walking your hands to the right this time. I'm going to flip it around again. Finding your wide-legged forward fold again. This time you might notice you can go a little bit deeper. Or maybe you're inhaling, halfway lift in your wide-legged forward fold. Exhale, coming back down. Again, you can flip your palms, reach back behind you. Just really releasing the back of the legs with the breath. Then we're going to find that motion again side to side. Turn your left toes out, bend your left knee, walk or sweep your hands to the left, gaze comes out in front of you, left toes in, right toes out. So I'm not just slamming all of the energy straight down and dumping all my weight down into my inner thighs. Core is still engaged, I'm still lifting up. Heart is lifted, even if my hands are down on the mat. If you've taken Skandasana on one side, you're going to try it on the other. It may look different. It might feel different. You might say no. Right toes towards the ceiling. Left foot may come in. Left heel may be down or up. Maybe the hands stay down. Maybe they come to heart center. Just again, I'm not dumping all my energy and everything down into the right hip. I'm still lifting through the chest, lifting through the heart. Core is still engaged, spine is still long. You can stay there as long as you like, and when you're ready, right toes come down. Left toes come back in, back to your wide-legged forward fold. Then walking your hands towards your left foot, bend your left knee, spinning on your right toes, low lunge, other side. And then bend your right knee, take it to the mat. Left knee comes back to its place. We're coming back to tabletop. Take some wiggles, take some movement if you need to here. Then step your right foot to the outside of both your hands. We're setting up for lizard lunge. Our intention is going to be stretching our hip flexors front and back. So we want to keep that engagement in the inner thighs. You might stay up on the palms. Take a notice what your knee is doing. If you notice your knee is opening up and you're beginning to rock all the weight to the outside of the right foot, widen your stance because you want to keep this intention, hip going front and back and not side to side. If you see your kneecap start to turn your toes out with it. So knee, ankle, toes, all going in the same direction, all the same width. Keep squeezing just a little bit on the inner thighs so that you're not rocking open to the sides. You can stay up on the palms. You might come down to the forearms. You might be halfway between palms and forearms. Maybe you put blocks underneath your forearms. And as I said, one hip is always very different than the other. It's not always the case, but it's most likely the case. Keep breathing into that side. Feeling the hips relax. Come back up to the palms. You're going to toe heel your right foot over to the left. So you're setting up for pigeon, bringing your right ankle towards your left hip and then having a seat. If from here you already notice that you're rocking way over to the right, you want to have both hips in line. So lift your right hip with a block. Maybe you're sitting on a block or a pillow there. If you notice that you can already square the hips here, you want to find your edge. Maybe begin to walk your right shin forward. You'll notice as you do that, you're going to start rocking to the right. When you go way over to the right, you start to unbalance the hips. You've gone too far. You want to bring the foot back in. But you're finding your edge. If you have very open hips already, Maybe you take another moment to re-engage those inner thighs again, zipping them up. So you're going to bring the inner thighs in towards each other. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And then relaxing down. Maybe you're taking some movement through the hips. Maybe you let your pigeon sleep, reaching up through the crown. Lengthen your spine up and then forward, coming down forearms. You can stop there. 2 fists underneath your forehead. Palms can reach out. So we've been stretching at the beginning. Then we spent some time strengthening around the hips. And then we're going to stretch again. So really concentrating on letting things go with the breath. Instead of forcing and pushing on each exhale. Just letting all of the muscles, the tendons lengthen, relax. Walk your palms back up towards your knee. You're going to take a little stretch through your left quad. So bending your left knee, you can use a strap or maybe you reach back for your left foot. Beginning to pull the left foot in until you feel a stretch in your left quad. Nothing intense, nothing huge, just releasing the quad. Staying here for a few breaths. And then very gently, with control, release the left foot back down. Plant both the palms, curl the left toes under, press up through the left toes and the palms, lifting the hips. We're going to make our way back to our tabletop. Finding some movement again if the hips feel a little sticky. We're going to find our lizard lunge other side. Step your left foot to the outside of both your hands. This hip's different. Again, keeping the alignment, kneecap over ankle, knee going in the same direction as the ankle and the toes. So you can widen your stance, turn your toes out, whatever you need to do. This hip, this side's different. So again, you can stay on your palms, you can come down to forearms, you can come down to blocks. Keeping a slight engagement in the inner thighs so you're not rocking to the outside of the foot. We're stretching the hips front and back here. One more breath. Stay with me. Then coming back up to the palms, we're coming to seated pigeon on the other side. Toe heel your left foot over to the right, bringing your left ankle towards your right hip. Again, what's your intention? Are you just needing to release here? Or maybe you're finding a little bit more engagement. Squeeze your inner thighs together, zip them up. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then release down, finding your edge, using a block underneath the left hip if you need to. Wiggling in for a moment if you need to. Whatever feels good on this side. And then lengthening the spine up and forward, letting your pigeon sleep. Forearms to fists, palms out. Continuing to breathe into the hips. And then inhale, come back up to the palms. We're going to take that quad stretch on the other side. So bend your right knee, reaching your right arm back for your right foot. Doesn't have to be a big pull, might be just very tiny on this side. But you're listening for when you feel the quad begin to stretch. Everybody's different. You're stopping when you feel it begin to stretch. Sending your breath into the quad, feeling it lengthen. So all of these muscles, we're letting them let go so they're not pulling on the hips. Hips may just be a byproduct sometime of something else going on. The hips hurting. It may not be that there's anything particular going on in the hip itself. It may be that the muscles, the tendons, everything else around there are tight. And then with control, release the right foot down. This time rocking way, way over to the left hip. Right leg is going to come out and around. Left foot comes out from underneath you. We're going to get all the extra fluff out of the way, if you were blessed with that extra fluff, until you can feel the sits bones, very base down here, down into your mat. Engage your toes, soften your knees. You'll notice the minute you soften your knees, your spine kind of reaches up, pulling the core in, up, 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 up with the spine. Then find something to grab onto. It might just be the mat. It might be the shins, the ankles. It might be the toes. You're driving your spine forward. Length, 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 length. You can keep the soft bend in your knees. Maybe you begin to straighten your knees. Keep reaching your heart, your spine forward. And then when you're as far forward as you can go, then let your neck go. Doesn't matter where it lands. Everybody's bodies are going to look a little bit different. And then rolling back up, one vertebrae at a time. Deep bend in your knees. Pull your core in. Lower yourself all the way down to your back. Left leg is going to extend straight. Right knee bends. It comes up over your belly. Grabbing right below your kneecap. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, pull it in. So you're compressing your right side belly, but letting your belly go soft. You don't want to pull the core in and slam the low back in. We're just releasing the hips. And then reach your right foot straight up to the ceiling, engage your toes again. You're going to take a grip. It doesn't have to be very high. Neck needs to stay down on the mat because we don't want to put any strain on the neck here. It's not our intention. You're going to grab either behind the calf or maybe behind the ankle. On your exhale, press your leg into your hands as you're pulling with your hands. So you're finding these opposites here between the push of the leg and the pull of the hands. Exhale, push, 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 push the leg into the hands. And then inhale, release the leg, let the hands pull. You might walk the hands up a little higher. You might keep them where they're at. Inhale again to prepare. Exhale, press, 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 press the leg. Inhale, release. You might pull. If you're all the way up to the ankle, you might take fingers to toe. Use the breath. Exhale. Then release your grip. Bend your right knee. And let your right leg go long. Bend your left knee. Grab right below your left kneecap. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, pull it in. Belly is soft. You're compressing the left side of your belly. But the core is not engaged. Then reaching your left foot up towards the ceiling. Same thing on this side. Engage your left toes. Find your grip. It might be lower. It might be higher. Grabbing behind, calf, ankle, wherever you're at. Exhale. Press, press, press the foot as you pull with the hands. Pressing your right knee away. So you're opening up this right hip side. Reclining pigeon. We're going to take it a little bit further. Thread the needle, right hand between the legs. Left hand can come behind hamstring or to the front of the shin. But you want to get the left foot off of the floor. Then taking this into the glute, into the piriformis. Transfer your weight to the left. Sending your breath into the right hip, into the right glute. Oh, this is one of my favorite stretches. This is what gets tight on me, and then I feel it in my hips. So I have to release the glutes. And then I can feel it releasing the hip there. Right hip comes back to the mat. Left foot comes back to the mat. Right foot uncrosses, other side. Left ankle over your right knee. Press the left knee away, opening up the left hip. Thread the needle. And then rocking over to the right hip until you feel that stretch into the left piriformis, right into the cheek. Left hip comes back down. Right foot comes down. Left foot uncrosses. We're going to walk the feet down and apart the width of the mat. So there's still a deep bend in the knees, but I've widened the stance. With the exhale, both knees are going to go to the right. Little psoas stretch for the left side. Knees come back to center. And exhale, knees to the left. You can do this a few more times if you'd like to with the breath. And then whenever you're ready, rocking to one side or the other, using your palm to press yourself back up, coming back to a seated position. Oh, feeling those hips, they've loosened up, they've let go a little bit. Feeling all that anxiety and the stress that you've let build up in the hips just melt away. One big inhale, arms reach up overhead. And exhale, hands down through heart center. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any questions or comments, shoot me a message below. I hope to see you next time. Blessings and namaste.